Welcome everyone to my latest action figure review, as I have the Hasbro Marvel Legends The Wolverine for the Deadpool Legacy Collection, which is a remastered edition of the 20th anniversary one we saw a few years ago, and it was released alongside a Deadpool to market and promote the latest movie Deadpool and Wolverine, since we're not going to see the official figures for another few months. So in the meantime, we have another reissue of the classic look of Logan from his previous movies. In terms of the packaging, there's not much to it for Wolverine. It's mostly a Deadpool theme with the logo, the titles as well as the photo, but I do like the open clamshell for the figure. So here is the first look at the Legacy Collection of the Wolverine. So once again we have that classic look of Logan with the vest and jeans, and of course throughout the years he's always kind of had this look with this vest, but I believe this is straight up from X-Men Origins, so the first Wolverine movie, simply because of the head sculpt. It is different to the original one, and from what I heard, because I don't have the jacket version, is they placed that head sculpt onto this vest to give him that look from the first film. And let me bring in the original vest one, which I also have. You can see that the main difference is the head sculpt, and I always thought that this one kind of looks like Wolverine in either his sequel or maybe Days of the Future Past. It just kind of has that kind of look from it, especially with the shorter hairstyle, and this one is mostly based on, I guess, the first Wolverine film. And I know that he wore this kind of look in X2 as well. He's always had the vest in X3, he had it in the Wolverine, he had it in the Logan movie as well. So it's now become kind of the definitive classic look of Hugh Jackman. Of course, with the Deadpool and Wolverine film, he's got the classic yellow suit, which a lot of people will be looking forward to, but this is just kind of one that you should have in your collection. So in terms of the body build, you can see that the sculpt is very similar, probably about 90%, but it is slightly different. The new one, the Legacy, has kind of the wider arms, which kind of gives him off that kind of aggressive look, and for me the proportions do look better. You can see this one is kind of more closed in, and also the paint as well. It's a lot darker in terms of the jeans on the old one. The new one kind of has the lighter look. As for the shoes, you can see it's very similar, slightly different in terms of the paint. And then for the hands, of course, we have the claws, which do look very similar, but maybe some slight differences. And then for the dog tags, I can see that the old one probably looks slightly better in terms of the details. It has kind of the lines to represent the text, whereas the new one, I think, is kind of a bit more lazy. You can see it has more of that plain look, so not as detailed compared to the original. So the real main difference is obviously the head sculpt, but if you have the jacket version of Wolverine, then you can obviously place it on this one as well and have a combination of both. But this one's mostly for those who missed out on the original. So let's first take a look at the different head sculpts included. So the one right out of the packaging is one I really like with that full-on aggressive face sculpt, but of course they do include one with the standard look. So I'm going to take it off with the dog tag and then place on the other head sculpt. And you can see that this one kind of has the standard look, but of course we also have the longer hairstyle. Obviously not as exciting, but still nice to have an alternative version. And once again, I can bring in the original version, the 20th anniversary. You can see that both of them are really good looks, but obviously different in terms of the hairstyle. As for the alternative hands, we have a pair of closed fists, which can be used for kind of the neutral look or some fighting stances. Obviously, in comparison to the original, which included the bone claws, it's not as good as that version. And this is something that I don't totally hate, but I guess I would have preferred the bone claws. But it is what it is. It is kind of like a reissue, and they've just gone for that option by releasing it without it. So obviously the original one, if it's something that you really want, and then obviously go for that rather than getting the new version. And as a bonus, I've mixed and matched some of the previous Marvel Legends, so I've thrown on the Logan hair sculpt and hands onto this figure to kind of give it that look in the final battle. So this one obviously has all the blood on the head sculpt as well as the hands, and this is an option especially if you have both the figures. And now for the articulation. So let's start off with the head sculpt. So obviously it should be very smooth. It can go side to side, round and round, 360 if you want. And of course it kind of has a tilt to the left and the right as well. And then we can move the head sculpt slightly down and then upwards, not so much, but it's still decent. And then of course we have the arms. You can see the way it's been built. The shoulders do kind of look weird with this kind of pad, but of course it does allow better movement in terms of stretching it side to side, and then moving the arms forwards, upwards and backwards has no problems at all. And you can see it has a very good joint in terms of moving the arms all the way back. And we also move it forwards for some really classic looks of Wolverine in the attacks. And then we also have a good bicep swivel. You can see full 360 spin, and then we also have a good arm bend. So far so good. In terms of the hands, as expected, there is rotation and there's also a slight hinge as well. And then of course we have the dog tag, which is a separate piece. It does have movement. And then for the upper torso, you can't really move it side to side, as you can see with the joint, but you can tilt it downwards and move it all the way backwards like this. And then we also have the waist. There is a good turn. It does actually go all the way around if you want, and obviously it doesn't have side to side movement. And then for the legs, they kick forwards as far back like this, and then round the other side, kind of sideways I guess, more than backwards. And we have good leg rotation, and then we also have a full swivel on the thighs. And then we have some knee bends, really far back. In fact, it is kind of tight out of the packaging, which is good. And then we have the foot, so we have good movement kind of side to side, and then not much upwards, but you can see you can move downwards as well, and slight hinge side to side. So I guess it's kind of like a basic articulation for Marvel Legends. It's fine with me. The most important ones were really the arms, so that's good enough. So now for the size comparison. So here it is once again next to the Marvel Legends 20th anniversary Wolverine on the left, as well as an X-Men 3 Toy Biz version on the right. Here it is next to the Marvel Legends Logan, as well as Professor X, as well as some Toy Biz versions of the Fox characters with Daredevil and Punisher. And here it is next to some more Marvel Legends with the Amazing Fantasy Spider-Man and the Amazing Spider-Man. And here is the comparison with the SE Figuarts The Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, as well as the Mafex The Dark Knight. And let's throw in some Marvel vs Capcom, as we have the Jada Toys Ryu and Ken. So now for my final thoughts on the Legacy Collection of Wolverine by Marvel Legends. Of course, this is a must in your display if you're a Wolverine fan, since it is the classic look throughout the years, although this is mostly based on the Origins movie. But that's only if you don't have the original version of this figure, as it is mostly similar. However, this time you do get a different head sculpt, which in my opinion is the better of the two, and also a slightly improved proportion. If you have both the old one and the jacket version, you can just do some head swaps, and maybe personal preference, you just like the shorter hairstyle. To me, it pretty much does everything similar to the old one, so it's more for those who missed out previously, but bear in mind that this time you don't have the bone claw hands. So I'm going to give this between a 7 and 8 out of 10. It's still a great figure, but it would have been better if they maybe included another set of hands, or even a third hair sculpt very different to the other two. So which is the best live action Wolverine figure so far, and what are your thoughts on the upcoming Deadpool and Wolverine versions? Check out my latest on all the Deadpool and Wolverine news and collections, and thanks for watching.